Rock bottle on the track, boy.
What's going on? What's going on? Thank you for tuning into the Mind of a Man show, where men and women discuss all things men. My name is James Bush. I am your manversationist. Today we got another great guest, man. Great guest. This has been a long time coming. We have Bishop Chris Johnson.
Man, it's good to be here, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Man, I appreciate it. Bishop, tell my audience about yourself and the great work that you're doing in the Murfreesboro area.
Well, man, I've been in Murfreesboro for the past 20 years. I came down to Murfreesboro on full football scholarship, played football, graduated, got married, stayed around, started pastoring a church there. For the past 17 years, I've been a pastor of Zion Christian Ministries. I also currently serve as the team chaplain for the MTSU football team. I started a business called The Greatness Coach, where I'm mentoring young men and mentoring leaders and entrepreneurs. And then we started an academy called Man Maker Academy. And so the whole Man Maker movement has just expanded and grown. And so, man, we're just down in Murfreesboro doing our piece.
Man, that is so dope. That is so excellent. And it's so needed in this day and age because, you know, with the, I guess, single parent households and then a lot of things go along with that, the guidance, the model is just not there.
Yeah, and that's so key, man. We see so many young men who just don't have models for manhood. Mm-hmm. And what Man Maker is there to do is to provide manhood models for so many young men and older men who don't have models. And so that's what we do.
All right, so Bishop, let's get into the gauntlet. I brought you on here because I got a question.
Uh-oh.
I got a question now. What does it mean to be a man in our current society today?
Now that's loaded. That's a loaded question.
Yeah, I know, because this ain't the 80s and this ain't the 90s no more.
Right. You know, I think, man, and I mentioned this, of course, I wrote a book called Man-Made Men. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned this in the first, the introduction of the book. Manhood today has taken on so many different descriptions and definitions. And, to ask that question, what does it mean today? I think it has just kind of morphed. A lot of men are even confused, because you're telling us we're not needed in the family because women can, we can have kids, they can have kids, they can just go adopt kids or, have surrogate mothers. So the man is not needed there. Mm-hmm. You're telling us we're not needed in the marriage, mm-hmm. because two women can go get married, mm-hmm. right? So, and then you look at all of the other things that has to do with family structure, mm-hmm. like, man, I don't need a man, we can do A, B, or C. So now there's a confusion, like, am I fitting in there? Mm-hmm. Then when you look at, society in general, the images we see of men and how they dress and, you got guys wearing skirts and dresses now, and I hope I'm not going too far on your show here.
No. Look. We're all good with that, my brother. We're all good.
So it's literally it's confusing for even men today when you talk about what does it mean to be a man. But I think what we need to work toward is having a healthy description / definition on what a man is today, what we love or strive for it to be. I believe that the best picture of that is found in the Bible. I think God gives us a true picture of what manhood really is. And so there's a couple of key things we talk about: men being providers, protectors, mm-hmm. men being teachers, men being mentors, and all of those things kind of help us as we talk about what a man should be versus what society says it is.
Two things.
Let's do it.
Like Cactus Jack, bang, bang. So a lot of, maybe not males, but females, they'll sometimes lead with this statement. a real man would do this. A real man would do that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's so defeating
Yeah.
to the men today because, again, a lot of them grew up in single-parent households and they didn't have a male direction. And so when you hear a lady say a real man is this or that, then it kind of can be confusing.
Yeah.
What do we do about that? I mean, how do we address that?
Well, see, so you said you gave me two things, so I'm gonna give you two things right back.
Okay.
First of all, I think what a lot of ladies have to realize is, especially if you grew up in the context of a home and you had a father present.
Yeah.
See, we've taken over 67 young men through our program.
Okay.
And if out of those 67, maybe 10 of them had dads present.
Wow.
So when you talk through those things, you understand, like, she had a better picture of what a man looks like than he did.
Okay.
So then she has built unrealistic expectations for a young man. This leads me to my number two, who does not have capacity to be who your daddy was. Doesn't have the capacity to be who your uncle was. He just have no point of reference, right?
Right.
Doesn't make him less than a guy. He just doesn't know. So if you saw a man treating his wife right, paying bills, that's what you saw with your daddy. He never saw that. The brother just don't know how to do that, you know?
I respect that. I respect that. So I got to get to this last. I got 30 seconds. They about to kick me off. So you mentioned something about manhood is traced back to the Bible. Well, in our current society today, we've got all these different schools of thoughts, these religions and beliefs and so, and some believe that the Bible is widely patriarchal. How do we get folks to kind of just say, hey, it's not divisive. It is a guide. It is a source. It is a model for those, man, who need a model that they couldn't get nowhere else.
Yeah. Well, the Bible is patriarchal. I think what we have to do is define what we mean by patriarchal. There were patriarchs in the Bible. Jesus models for us a true depiction of leadership. And so I think what we have to understand is not necessarily what's our idea of what's in the Bible, but our interpretation of what we read from the Bible. So, I mean, that can get deep. I don't know if we have time to go into all of that, but I think what we have to do is get an accurate understanding of how the Bible depicts manhood.
Gotcha. Well, Bishop, man, we got to go to a quick break, and we'll be right back. I'm going to take my patriarchal self to that couch right there and sit down for a while. Mind of a Man Show.
Hi, my name is Chris Johnson, AKA The Greatness Coach, and you're watching Mind of a Man.
So, Bishop, I got a question. What are 5 things that men need to unlearn to become better leaders in their community?
Well, I love, first of all, the fact that you really associate men with leadership, because I really believe that's one of the qualities of a good man, is a leader.
Right.
So, 5 things. So first of all, I think one of the things we need to unlearn, not all men, that's a general statement, but most men struggle with as a leader, they struggle with authority and what it is. So I think what we have to unlearn is that authority is something that we can abuse, right? We need to learn how to use it. Number two, I think we have to understand that submission is mutual. You know, especially in the Bible, most guys look at the Bible and say, oh, wives are to submit. But if you read that carefully in Ephesians chapter 5, it says they ought to submit one to another.
Okay.
True leaders have submission. Like if you're going to follow me, right, I have to submit to you as well because there's a level of commitment both ways. I got to commit to show up to lead you every day. So there's a mutual submission. Then I think also one of the things, and what am I on, number 3?
I think you're on number 3.
Yeah, number 3.
You're on number 3, right?
Yeah, I'm on number 3. So I think thirdly, what men have to unlearn is that nothing of greatness has ever been done alone. A lot of men like to isolate, walk alone, and say, I got it. You know, we put on this macho show like we can walk through this life alone. We don't need any help. Over my years of experience mentoring guys, I think the quicker you start reaching out for help, the better off you're going to be. I think another thing we need to unlearn is that leadership cannot be separate from influence. I think leadership is influence. A lot of guys, here's how I define it. If you claim to be a leader, take a walk, turn around and see who's with you, right? So like you have to have influence in order to be a leader. And a lot of guys just want the title and they want to be a leader, but you have influenced no one, okay? Fifthly and finally, leaders are not born, they're made.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Roll tape. Speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, leaders are not born. I have spent the majority of my adult life as a leader. There's no aspect of my life right now where I'm not the leader. In my house, in my businesses, at the church, whatever I do, I'm the leader. I had to learn leadership quality. When I was younger, I was not a good leader. I don't think anybody is innately born a good leader. We are innately born with great gifts and skills and maybe some talents, but that doesn't always equate to leadership. I know a lot of talented people who are horrible leaders. So we have to learn how to become good leaders. And there's a lot of things to smooth out when it comes to leadership. So I think leaders are made.
Do you think sometimes that the growing pains in leadership kind of, maybe help influence or deter that person from reaching their overall goal, especially when they're younger?
I think so. A lot of us, most of us, are shaped by our experiences. We are a sum total. It was probably last semester in one of our programs, we had to sit and talk to some young men and talk to them about who they are and the context of who they are today. We are all a byproduct of where we came from.
That's right.
Be it good or bad.
That's right.
Right? Who I am today is I got to deal with my mama and mess. I got to deal with my daddy's mess. I got to deal with cousins. So all of that shaped and molded me today. Those experiences, those pains, those traumas can either make me or break me. And we take those things and we decide who we want to be.
You were mentioning earlier when you were talking about the quality things that need to be unlearned. One of the common things that I believe I recognized in that was vulnerability. Is that we have to, as men, learn to become more vulnerable. I mean, without vulnerability, Brene Brown says there's no intimacy. It's not necessarily from a sexual standpoint, but it's being able to know how the machine works with myself as well as my fellow man. And so being that as it is, give me a quick, 30 seconds. How hard is it for men this day and age with all this mental health talk, mumbo jumbo? I know I'm a therapist, but to be vulnerable.
It's very hard because we feel like we're the solution to every problem. As a matter of, when my wife brings me problems, she'll tell me about, she just wants me to listen. While she's talking, I'm already thinking of the solution, right? So we never turn it off. So I think what we have to do is realize we don't know everything. We can't solve everything. Right. We can't be Superman for everyone. And we have to draw some boundaries and realize there's some things I just simply cannot tap into without help.
I mean, I think that's so important. I mean, any great leader has to recognize that, as you said earlier, I mean, you look back and say, who will follow you? Who will work with you? Who is willing to, do the work or work in the trenches with you for the job that's needed? Because all jobs aren't created equal. You know, and so some of them, they take much sacrifice. They take much persistence and perseverance. I think that's something that is missing with a lot of us today because we don't have, I guess, maybe the foundation or the building blocks that come along with that. You know, especially what you've seen over the years.
Yeah.
Well, Bishop, we're about to take another quick break, and we will be right back. Mind of a Man Show. So lately on social media, there's this prevailing thought about manhood, about child rearing and development. And one of the things that I've seen is that about single mothers and women and young boys. It's been said that a woman cannot raise a young boy to be a man. Bishop, you work with them all the time.
Yeah.
You work with young men all the time. You work with single men. Give me your thoughts on this.
Well, my thoughts are succinctly, I believe that manhood is best depicted in the company, conversation, and counsel of other men. This is not to discredit all of the single mothers. My dad's mom was she raised 12 boys by herself.
Wow.
And they all turned out to be great men. But they were somewhere along the line influenced and impacted by other men, whether it was a coach, a pastor, an older brother, an uncle, older cousin, some man impacted their lives. So if we say, can a lady raise a boy to be a man? So the technical question is, she can raise the boy and he can mature into a man, but will there be some holes, some gaps, some cracks, some things that need to be filled? Yes. And so what I always try to encourage, and all of the mothers who bring their sons to our mentoring program, here's what they say. Some stuff I can't teach him. He's not connecting with me. At some point, that boy is he's gonna get to the edge of manhood and say, I need a daddy. I need a man. And that's been my experience is we gotta stop focusing on the ladies and start focusing on that boy who needs mentorship. And we can try to win that argument. We can try to lose that argument, whatever the argument may be. But I think what we have seen, statistically proven, boys need men.
You know, it's funny you were saying that because that was my next question I was going to go to, was that the detractors, the ones who's naysayers who say, hey, you know, a woman can't do this, a woman, man, and they'll pick at those holes in development. They'll pick at that self-esteem, that discipline, those things that usually a lot of times young boys learn from men. And they'll say, this is the culprit. This is why a woman can't do that. But I think sometimes we have to look at our society instead of for what it is ideologically, what it is in reality.
Yeah.
And in real time, we have this gap. We have this missing. And so what we have to do is our best to fill in those blanks.
Is what I call in my book affirmation. Okay. I think every boy needs to be affirmed. Okay. It is the dad who looks at his son who falls down off his bike and says, boy, get up. It is the young boy who shoots his jump shot in the gym at 5, 6 years old. And everybody else can say good job and cheer for him, but he's looking to see what that dad, that coach, that mentor is saying. Mama can come after the football game, wrap her arms around the son and say, baby, you did a good job. But I know from me, speaking from experience, the only opinion I look for, what did my dad have to say, right? That's called affirmation. When that man tells you to roll your shoulders up, stand up, be a man, get up, try it again, right? You're a Johnson boy. That means something. This is what we do in our family. That's affirmation. My mom couldn't give me that.
It's funny you said it because when you, especially in sports, guys look for the affirmation of other guys. They look for that, you know, rite of passage. You know, I mean, if I dunked on you, then man, hey, you know, you got dunked on it, man. All the guys is going wild about it, and they go. But if I dunked on you, I'm not looking for my mom to affirm you or anything.
but you know, and let me say this, because I have the privilege, because I'm a pastor, I also counsel men who are married. So I'm sitting in marriages, so I see them at all stages.
Yeah.
When they come to my program, and I see them as they've been married for 20, 30 years, and now they're sitting here and they got problems, they got issues.
Yeah.
Most of these problems and issues has nothing to do with the marriage.
It doesn't.
He's got daddy issues.
Exactly.
Right? And so what I found is he never got affirmed.
Right.
And most guys, when they get hooked up with a very strong, independent, strong-willed woman who was raised by a good father, and that man has never been affirmed, he starts looking for affirmation in her. That's dangerous. Because I need her now to validate me as a man.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? That's dangerous because if I need that from her, she's going to have to continue that.
Wow.
Throughout the marriage relationship. Now I'm looking for her to validate me, to tell me my outfit looks good, to tell me I'm a good man, to tell me I don't need my wife to tell me that. This I know. How can my wife tell me how to be a good man? She's never been one.
Yeah, you have a strong point there, but you know the peanut gallery would say something of the contrary.
That's preference.
Bishop, it doesn't take all that now. We all have a role to play in this, and, you know, we can offer our extended grace in this area. I mean, yeah, but I think at the end of the day, you need that direction.
You have to have it.
And if you don't have it, then there is a gap.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Mind of a Man Show. Well, Bishop, I got to get out of here. But before I go, I mean, I see you got some literature here, and I want you to tell my audience about it.
Well, man, back in 2019, I wrote a book called Man-Made Men.
Okay.
It's a man's guide to making other men. If there's any man out there, mentor out there, you have some nephews, some mentees, and you're looking to give them a model for manhood, I highly recommend this book. Also, for those men out there who's like, I'm not really a book reader, but I'll go through a devotional every single day. This is a 30-day motivational devotional for men, and I really, really highly recommend that. So for more information about any of these works, just go to my website at manmaker.org.
And they can find other additional information about Manmaker Academy from that same website?
Same website, yeah. And I'm on Instagram at 4manmakers. I'm on Facebook at 4manmakers. So we're out there.
Man. Well, Bishop, I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been a wealth of information. And I hope
fun.
those questions wasn't too brutal for you.
Oh, I love it. This has been fun, man.
We didn't have enough time, though.
I know, right? We have to do it again.
Definitely going to have to do it again very soon. What's burning on the bushes next? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to put this public service announcement out there. A divorce is not the end of the world. That's right. You're looking at one, yours truly. I've been through that process. It's very daunting. It's very expensive as well, too. And it can have you thinking as soon as you come out of it that I will never do this thing again called love or relationships. But why? When we only have one life, when we only have, well, we have so many opportunities, so many giftings. Do we make mistakes? Yes. Are our calculations a little bit off? Yes. So what do? We go back to the drawing board. We have to do a self-assessment. That's where therapy is so important. That's why coaching is so important. We got to figure out what happened. Why did the divorce happen? Yeah, maybe in your early 20s or your 30s, maybe you didn't know so much. Maybe in your 50s, you don't know so much. It's okay though, it's never too late. The point I'm trying to make is that a divorce does not mean the end of you in that right. You can do better. What is it gonna take? It's gonna take you having a level of self-awareness about yourself. That's right. Some stuff happened in childhood that has affected you for the last 20 years that you haven't looked at yet. Sorry, it did. It's not all the girlfriends, it's not all the boyfriends. It's childhood, development, the way you perceive life. Also too, sometimes the people that you were with, they grew. You grew. You didn't grow together. It happens. You didn't do the work. You didn't do the little date nights, or you didn't take the little roses and put them on the floor, and maybe you even asked her to sweep them up afterwards. Point being is, we gotta do better. And you can do better if you put your mind to it. If you allow yourself to say, okay, here's where I am. This is what I want to do. This is the type of individual that I want in my space. And then seek to understand that other individual. Who are they? How can you compliment them? How can you affirm them? Because a lot of us, we don't know about that. It's one of those things, remember in the 80s, it's my way or the highway? Yeah, that didn't work out too well. Point is, again, fellas, ladies, you can do better. It doesn't take 2, 3, 4 times. It just takes an open mind and a lot of work. Take care.